The medical station's alarm screamed through the sterile corridors. Dr. Velcora's forearms moved with practiced efficiency, checking monitors and preparing the emergency bay. The Khaleesi physician had seen thousands of patients in 20 years of practice, but something about this case felt different. Incoming trauma patient from New Horizon Colony, Nestari announced, her young voice tight with tension. Mining accident. Multiple injuries. Species classification. Human. Velcora's dual heart skipped. Humans. The station had only treated a handful since they joined the Galactic Council 40 years ago. Strange creatures from a distant world called Earth. The doctor pulled up the species file on the holographic display, scanning the basic information while the transport ship docked. The doors hissed open. 2 human medics rushed in, pushing a floating stretcher between them. On it lay a man, his face twisted in pain but conscious. His skin was pale, covered in dirt and blood. Velcora's sensitive nose caught the metallic smell immediately. His name is Taemin, one of the medics said quickly. 32 years old. Support beam collapsed on him during tunnel excavation. He's been bleeding internally for 3 hours. We stabilized him as much as we could, but our colony doesn't have the equipment for this. Velcora moved to the stretcher, scanning Taemin with practiced efficiency. The preliminary readings made the doctor's primary brain freeze. This couldn't be right. The scanner had to be malfunctioning. Run it again, Velcora ordered Nestari. The young assistant complied, her expression growing more confused. The numbers didn't change. Taemin's blood chemistry was chaos. Iron levels that would poison any Khaleesi within minutes. Oxygen carriers that looked corrosive. White blood cells attacking everything they encountered like tiny warriors at war. Cell death happening constantly throughout his body, yet somehow balanced by equally constant regeneration. Doctor? Nestari whispered. Is this normal for humans? Velcora pulled up the human baseline readings from the medical database. The doctor's throat went dry. These readings were normal. Every human naturally lived in a state that would kill most galactic species within hours. We need to operate now, Velcora said, pushing aside the existential crisis blooming in the back of their mind. Prepare Surgical Suite 3. Get me the xenobiology specialist on call. The human medic stepped back as Velcora's team took over. Taemin groaned, his eyes fluttering open. They were dark brown, almost black, with white surrounding the iris. Predator's eyes, the doctor realized with a chill. Forward-facing, designed for hunting. Am I going to die? Taemin asked, his voice rough but steady. Not today, Velcora replied, trying to sound confident. The doctor had no idea if that was true. In the surgical suite, Velcora worked with intense focus. The human's internal damage was severe. 3 ribs fractured, 1 puncturing the left lung. Massive bleeding in the abdominal cavity from a ruptured organ the database identified as a spleen. Any other species would have been dead before reaching the station. But as Velcora operated, something remarkable happened. The human's body was fighting back. Blood vessels were already beginning to seal themselves. The punctured lung showed signs of tissue regeneration that should have taken days, happening in real time under the surgical lights. His clotting factors are off the scale, Nestari reported, monitoring the blood work. Doctor, his body is healing itself during the surgery. I see it, Velcora murmured. The doctor had never witnessed anything like this. It was as if evolution had designed humans specifically to survive trauma. The surgery took 6 hours. By the end, Velcora was exhausted, but Taemin's vital signs had stabilized. The doctor removed the surgical equipment and cleaned up, mind racing with questions. In the recovery room, Velcora sat beside the sleeping human. The monitors showed his heart beating steadily, one single organ pumping that dangerous iron-based blood through his veins. The doctor's own dual hearts felt fragile in comparison. Nestari entered quietly, holding a datapad. Her face was troubled. Doctor, I pulled the complete medical records for every human patient we've treated in the past 5 years. She said softly. They all have the same baseline readings. The corrosive blood, the aggressive immune system, the constant cellular death and regeneration. It's not a disease. This is just what humans are. Velcora took the datapad, scanning through the files. Humans treated for infections, injuries, even routine checkups. All of them carried these lethal biological markers as naturally as breathing. How? Nestari asked. How are they still alive? It was the same question burning in Velcora's mind. The doctor looked at Taemin. watching his chest rise and fall with steady breaths. A species that lived in a constant state of controlled biological warfare with itself. A species that survived conditions that would constitute torture for any other known life form. Timon's eyes opened slowly. He looked around the room, disoriented for a moment, then focused on Velcora. "Did it work?" he asked. "The surgery?" "Yes," Velcora replied. "You'll make a full recovery." Timon smiled, a gesture that showed his flat teeth. Not the fangs of a carnivore, but not the grinding molars of an herbivore either. Omnivore teeth. Adaptable. Able to survive on whatever food was available. "Thank you," Timon said. "I was worried for a bit there." Velcora couldn't help it. The question came out before the doctor could stop it. "How are you still alive?" Velcora asked quietly. Timon looked confused. He glanced at Nestari, then back at the doctor. "What do you mean?" he asked. "The surgery worked, right?" "Not just now," Velcora said, leaning forward. "Your blood. Your biology. By every medical standard in the Galactic Council, you shouldn't exist. Your body operates in conditions that would kill any other species. How do you survive this?" Timon blinked. Understanding slowly dawned on his face, followed by something that looked like amusement. "Oh," he said. "You mean human biology in general. I guess we're just built different. Earth it's a tough place. You adapt or you die." "Built different," Velcora repeated. That was an understatement. The doctor had spent 2 decades studying medicine, learning the biological patterns shared by most galactic species. "Humans violated every single one. Is this about that Death World classification thing?" Timon asked. "People always get weird when they hear Earth is Class 12. Velcora's skin went cold. Class 12. The doctor pulled up the planetary classification system on the room's console. Most inhabited worlds ranked Class 3 to 5. Comfortable, stable environments. Class 10 and above were considered extreme danger zones. Earth was rated Class 12. The description made Velcora's dual hearts pound. Extreme gravity variations. Volatile weather systems. High radiation exposure from a nearby star. Toxic oxygen levels. Active tectonic plates causing constant earthquakes and volcanic activity. Aggressive predator species. Deadly microorganisms. Humans had evolved on a world that actively tried to kill them every single day. No wonder their biology looked like a weapon. "You need rest," Velcora said, suddenly needing distance from this revelation. "We'll monitor you overnight." Timon nodded, already looking drowsy from the medication. Within minutes, he was asleep again. In the hallway outside, Velcora leaned against the wall. Nestari stood nearby, equally shaken. "What do we do?" the young assistant asked. Velcora thought about it. A species with biology designed for survival at any cost. A species that had joined the peaceful Galactic Council, living among fragile beings who couldn't comprehend their physical resilience. "We document everything," Velcora said finally, "and we submit a report to the Galactic Medical Council. They need to know what we've discovered." "Will they believe us?" Nestari asked. Velcora looked back at the recovery room where Timon slept peacefully, his impossible body already knitting itself back together. "They have to," the doctor said. "Because if humans can survive this, what else can they survive? And what does that mean for the rest of us?" Jiwoo arrived at Nexus Medical Station 2 days after her brother's surgery. She rushed through the corridors, her bag bouncing against her hip, worry etched on her face. When she reached Timon's room, she found him sitting up in bed, eating something from a tray. "You idiot," she said, relief flooding through her. "I thought you were dying." Timon grinned. He looked tired but alert. The color had returned to his face. "Takes more than a collapsed tunnel to kill me," he said. "Want some fruit? The station food is actually pretty good." Before Jiwoo could respond, Dr. Velcora entered the room. The Kalithi physician looked exhausted, all 4 arms carrying different data pads and scanning equipment. "Ms. Jiwoo," Velcora said, "I was hoping you would arrive soon. Your brother mentioned." "You're a xenobiologist, that's right," Jiwoo said cautiously. "Why?" "I need your help understanding something," Velcora said, gesturing to the data pads. "Your species. I've been researching human biology for 48 hours straight, and the more I learn, the less sense it makes." Jiwoo glanced at her brother, who shrugged. She followed Velcora to a conference room down the hall. Nestari was already there, surrounded by holographic displays showing human anatomy, blood chemistry, and evolutionary charts. Okay, Jiwoo said slowly, taking a seat. What do you want? To know. Velocora pulled up an image of human blood under microscopic magnification. The red blood cells looked dark and dense. This, Velocora said, hemoglobin, iron-based oxygen carriers. For most species in the galaxy, iron at these concentrations is toxic. It causes organ failure. How do humans not only survive this, but require it? Jiwoo nodded, understanding dawning. She had given this lecture before to alien students, but never to someone who looked quite this disturbed by the information. Earth's atmosphere has about 21% oxygen, Jiwoo explained. That's incredibly high compared to most inhabited worlds. Most species evolved with oxygen levels around 5 to 10%. Our bodies needed an efficient way to carry that much oxygen, so we evolved hemoglobin. Yes, it's toxic, but it works. Your atmosphere would poison us, Nesatari said quietly. Probably, Jiwoo admitted. We had to wear atmosphere suits when we first visited Kalithi worlds. Your air felt thin to us, like standing on a mountain. Velocora pulled up another display, this one showing the human immune system in action. White blood cells swarmed around a foreign particle, attacking it viciously. And this? The doctor asked. Your immune system is incredibly aggressive. It attacks constantly. Sometimes it even attacks your own body. We have documented cases of autoimmune disorders in your medical records. Why would evolution create a defense system that turns on itself? Jiwoo leaned back, considering how to explain this. She pulled up her own datapad and accessed Earth's biological database. Earth is full of diseases, she said. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi. Millions of different microorganisms all trying to survive. Many of them see humans as a perfect home, so our immune system evolved to be paranoid and violent. It's better to occasionally attack the wrong thing than to let a real threat slip through. She showed them images of various Earth pathogens. Velocora and Nestari recoiled at the sheer variety and aggression shown in the microscopic battles. Your world is a war zone, Velocora said. At every level, Jiwoo agreed. From microscopic to planetary. Earth has 5 major extinction events in its geological record. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, climate shifts. Life on Earth doesn't just survive. It fights to survive every single day. Nestari pulled up another file, her hands shaking slightly. I found records of human medical treatments, she said. Chemotherapy, radiation therapy. You intentionally poison yourselves to kill cancer cells. You expose yourselves to deadly radiation. The treatment protocols would be considered torture for any other species. Because we can survive it, Jiwoo said quietly. Barely. But we can. We poison ourselves just enough to kill the cancer without killing the patient. It's brutal, but it works. Velocora sat down heavily. The doctor's face showed a mixture of horror and fascination. Tell me about persistence hunting, Velocora said suddenly. Jiwoo raised an eyebrow. The doctor had done thorough research. That's an ancient human hunting technique, she said. Before we had weapons, our ancestors would chase prey animals for hours, sometimes days. The animal would run, we would follow. It would rest, we would catch up. Eventually, the animal would collapse from exhaustion. Then we would eat it. You chased prey to death, Nestari whispered. We're not fast, Jiwoo explained. Most Earth predators can outrun us in a sprint. But we have endurance. We can run for hours without stopping. We sweat to cool ourselves, which lets us keep going when other animals overheat. We just don't stop. Velocora stood and paced the room. All 4 arms gestured as the doctor processed this information. Let me understand this correctly, Velocora said. Humans evolved on a planet trying to kill them. Your biology adapted to survive poison, disease, radiation, extreme weather, and constant predation. Your hunting strategy is to simply never give up until your prey dies from exhaustion. Your medical treatments involve controlled poisoning. And you consider this normal. When you put it that way, it sounds worse than it is, Jiwoo said with a weak smile. It sounds like your entire species is a biological weapon, Velocora said bluntly. The room fell silent. Jiwoo felt a chill run down her spine. She had never thought of humanity that way, but from an outside perspective, She could see how it looked. Humans were built to endure things that would destroy other species. We're not weapons, Jiwoo said carefully. We're survivors. There's a difference, is there? Velcora asked. What makes something a weapon is not what it is, but how it's used. Humans have been peaceful members of the Galactic Council, yes. But that's a choice you make. The biological capability is still there. Jiwoo met the doctor's gaze steadily. Yes, she said. It's a choice. Every day, every human makes that choice. We could be violent. We could be aggressive. Our history shows we're capable of terrible things. But we chose to be better. We chose to join the galaxy as friends, not conquerors. But you could change your mind, Nestari said softly. Any species could, Jiwoo countered. The Khalithi have the intelligence to build devastating weapons. The Sarkoni have military strength. The Vrethian have numbers. Every species has potential for harm. We all choose peace. Velcora nodded slowly, but the concern didn't leave the doctor's face. I have to submit a report to the Galactic Medical Council, Velcora said. They need to understand what human biology actually is. Not because I think humans are dangerous, but because the galaxy needs to know. Medical facilities need proper protocols. Other species need to understand what they're dealing with. I understand, Jiwoo said. Can I see the report before you submit it? Of course, Velcora said. Later that evening, Jiwoo sat in her brother's room while he slept. She had read Velcora's report 3 times. It was fair, balanced, and scientifically accurate. It was also terrifying. The report concluded with a recommendation for Class A observation protocols. Not quite quarantine, but close. Monitoring, supervision. The kind of measures used for species considered potentially dangerous. Jiwoo looked at Taemin. He was healing faster than any alien patient would. In a few days he would be back at work, joking about his near-death experience. That was just how humans were. She thought about Earth, about humanity's long climb from scared primates to spacefaring civilization. Every step had been a fight. Every advance had cost blood and sacrifice. Humans didn't know how to do anything the easy way because Earth had never given them the easy way, and now the galaxy was looking at humanity and seeing a threat. Jiwoo's communicator buzzed. A message from Dr. Velcora. Report submitted to Galactic Medical Council. They want to convene an emergency session to discuss human biology. Ambassador Hyun-Ki has been notified. I'm sorry. Jiwoo closed her eyes. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The Galactic Council chambers were designed to inspire awe. The circular room stretched hundreds of meters across with representatives from over 200 species sitting in tiered rows. Holographic displays floated above each delegation, showing real-time translations and voting data. Ambassador Hyun-Ki stood at the center podium, his gray hair and weathered face showing the strain of the past week. Behind him, projected on the massive central display, was Dr. Velcora's medical report. The title alone made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. Biological assessment, species Homo sapiens. Potential threat classification. Pending. Counselor Thrix rose from the Vrethian delegation, the insectoid diplomat's multiple eyes fixed on Hyun-Ki with undisguised suspicion. Thrix's translator collar rendered his clicking speech into perfect standard ambassador. We have reviewed the medical report submitted by Dr. Velcora. The findings are deeply disturbing. Human biology represents a clear and present danger to galactic stability. Hyun-Ki kept his expression neutral. He had expected this. With respect, Counselor, the report describes our biology, not our intentions. Humans have been members of this council for 40 years without incident. Without incident because you were few in number, Thrix replied. But human colonies are growing. Your population in council space has tripled in the last decade. How long before you realize your biological advantages and decide to use them? Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several delegates nodded in agreement. Captain Ulmora of the Sarkoni military delegation stood next. The reptilian officer's scales gleamed under the chamber lights. We have conducted our own analysis of human capabilities, the captain said. During joint military exercises, we observed human soldiers operating under conditions that incapacitated our own troops. Humans can function through injuries that would send any Sarkoni warrior into medical shock. They require less food, less water, and less rest than our best soldiers. Are you suggesting humans are superior soldiers? Another delegate called out. I am suggesting they are dangerous ones, Ulmora replied. Not through training or technology, but through biology. A human soldier wounded in combat often continues fighting. We have documented cases of humans surviving wounds that should have been instantly fatal. Because we don't give up. Hyun-Ki said quietly. That's not a weapon, Captain. That's survival instinct. Every species has it, not like this, Thrix interjected. He brought up a series of historical records on the central display. Earth's past laid bare for the entire Council to see. Your own history proves our point, Ambassador. 2 global wars within 30 years. Nuclear weapons deployed against your own species. Environmental destruction on a planetary scale. Your people nearly drove yourselves to extinction through violence and greed. Hyun-Ki felt his jaw tighten. He had known this would come up. Earth's bloody history was no secret. And then we stopped, he said firmly. We looked at what we had done to ourselves and our world, and we chose a different path. We chose peace. We chose to reach out to the stars not as conquerors but as partners. You chose peace when you had no other option, Thrix said. Your world was dying. You came to us because you needed our help to survive. But now you're established. You have colonies, resources, trade agreements. What happens when you decide you don't need us anymore? The chamber erupted in debate. Voices overlapped, translators struggling to keep up. Some delegates defended humanity, pointing to decades of peaceful cooperation. Others argued for immediate restrictions on human expansion. The council speaker, an elderly Talvian with luminescent skin, raised her hand for silence. The room gradually quieted. We will hear from the human delegation's scientific advisor, the speaker announced. Dr. Jiwoo, please approach the podium. Jiwoo walked to the center, her heart pounding. She had prepared for this moment, but standing in front of 200 alien species was still overwhelming. She took a deep breath. Counselors, she began. I am a xenobiologist. I study how different species adapt to their environments. And yes, humans are adapted to survive extreme conditions. But that adaptation is not aggression. It's resilience. She pulled up her own data on the display. Images of Earth showing its harsh beauty. Earth taught us to endure, she said. But it also taught us compassion. Humans survive by working together. We protect the weak, we care for the injured, we teach our young. Our greatest strength isn't our ability to fight. It's our ability to choose not to. Pretty words, Thrix said dismissively. But words are cheap, Doctor. Action is what matters. Then judge us by our actions, Jiwoo replied, her voice growing stronger. 40 years of peaceful trade, 40 years of scientific cooperation, 40 years of humans working alongside every species in this chamber, without a single act of aggression. How many more years do we need to prove ourselves? A Kalithi delegate stood. It was someone Jiwoo recognized from her research, a prominent scientist. The doctor raises a fair point, the Kalithi said. We are discussing potential danger based on biological capability, but by that logic, should we not also monitor the Sarkoni military? Or restrict Vrithian reproduction since their population growth could overwhelm resources? Every species has potential for harm. This is different, Thrix insisted. Human biology is weapons-grade resilience. They are built for survival in ways we cannot match. So your concern is that we make you feel weak? Jiwoo asked quietly. The chamber went silent. Thrix's mandibles clicked in agitation. Jiwoo continued, her voice gentle but firm. I understand the fear. Humans are different. We come from a world that shaped us in ways most species can't comprehend. But that difference doesn't make us your enemy. It makes us your allies who can survive in places you cannot, who can endure conditions that would kill you, who can stand between danger and those who need protection. She looked around the chamber, meeting eyes with as many delegates as she could. You fear what humans might do, but consider what we have done. We came to the stars broken and desperate, and you welcomed us. You gave us a chance to be part of something greater than ourselves. We will never forget that, and we will spend the rest of our existence proving that your trust was not misplaced. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the council speaker called for a vote. All in favor of implementing Class A observation protocols for human colonies. Lights appeared on the display. Green for yes, red for no. Jiwoo watched as the votes came in, her stomach churning. The final tally appeared. 112 in favor. 93 against. The motion passes, the speaker announced. Human colonies will be subject to observation protocols effective immediately. This council will reconvene in 6 months to review the situation. Hyun-Ki closed his eyes briefly. Not the outcome he had hoped for, but not the worst either. Observation was better than quarantine. As the chamber emptied, Ji-woo joined her ambassador. They stood together, watching the delegates file out. "I'm sorry," Ji-woo said. "I tried, you did well," Hyun-Ki replied. "You spoke the truth. That's all we can do." A message alert chimed on Hyun-Ki's communicator. He frowned as he read it. "What is it?" Ji-woo asked. "A distress signal. Research Station Epsilon 7. They're reporting a medical emergency. Some kind of plague." Ji-woo's blood ran cold. "A plague now in the middle of this political crisis?" Hyun-Ki continued reading, his expression growing darker. "Multiple alien species affected. Mortality rate near 100%. But according to the preliminary analysis, the pathogen shouldn't be lethal. It's based on compounds that are naturally harmless unless," Ji-woo said slowly, realization dawning. "Unless it was designed to be harmless to a specific species, one with different biology than everyone else." They both understood the implication. A plague that killed every species except humans. Hyun-Ki's communicator buzzed again. This time it was an official council alert. "Emergency session called for tomorrow morning," he read. "Topic is human biological warfare and immediate quarantine measures." Ji-woo felt the weight of the situation crushing down on her. They were being framed. Someone had engineered this plague specifically to implicate humanity. "We need to get to that station," she said. "We need to find out what's really happening." Hyun-Ki nodded grimly. "And we need to do it fast. Because if we can't prove humanity's innocence, everything we've built in the last 40 years will be destroyed." Research Station Epsilon 7 hung in orbit around a gas giant, its lights flickering weakly against the darkness of space. The quarantine beacon flashed red, warning all ships to stay away. Inside the station, death was spreading. Taemin checked his biosuit seals one more time. Beside him in the transport shuttle, Ji-woo did the same. Young-soo, the security chief from New Horizon Colony, sat across from them, his face grim. All 3 humans had volunteered for this mission. No one else could safely enter the hot zone. The shuttle docked with the station's emergency airlock. Warning lights bathed everything in red. "Remember," Young-soo said, his military training showing through. "We don't know what we're walking into. Stay alert." The airlock hissed open. The smell hit them immediately, even through their suits' filters. Death and decay. The station's main corridor was empty, but signs of panic were everywhere. Overturned equipment, scattered belongings, emergency medical supplies abandoned in haste. Ji-woo pulled up the station map on her datapad. According to the distress signal, survivors had barricaded themselves in the central laboratory. "This way," she said, leading them down a side corridor. They passed the medical bay. Through the transparent walls, Taemin could see bodies covered with sheets. Too many bodies. His stomach churned, but he forced himself to keep moving. The laboratory doors were sealed. Young-soo knocked in the pattern they had arranged beforehand. After a moment, the doors slid open a crack. A Kalithi scientist peered out, all 4 eyes wide with fear. "You came," the scientist whispered. "Thank the stars. We thought everyone had abandoned us." Inside the lab, 15 aliens huddled together. All of them showed symptoms. Skin discoloration, labored breathing, fever. They were dying. Ji-woo immediately went to work, scanning the survivors and collecting samples. Taemin helped her set up portable diagnostic equipment while Young-soo secured the perimeter. "The pathogen is airborne," one of the scientists explained weakly. "It spread through the ventilation system. Within hours, everyone was infected. We locked ourselves in here, but it's only slowed things down. We're all going to die." "Not if we can help it," Taemin said, trying to sound confident. Ji-woo analyzed the samples, her expression growing more troubled with each reading. "This doesn't make sense," she muttered. "The pathogen is based on compounds that should be harmless. It's like someone took normal biological material and weaponized it specifically against non-human species." Young-soo stepped closer. "Can you trace where it came from?" Ji-woo pulled up the genetic sequencing data. Her breath caught. "It's engineered," she said. "And badly. Whoever made this wanted it to look like human bioweapon research, but they made mistakes. The base proteins are Vrethian in origin, not human." "Vrethian?" Taemin repeated. "Like Counselor Thrix? We're being framed," Young-soo said flatly. Ji-woo nodded, her mind racing. This was exactly what Thrix needed. A plague that killed everyone except humans, appearing right after the council vote. It would justify every fear, every suspicion. Can you synthesize a cure? Taemin asked. Jiwoo looked at the data again, then at the dying aliens around them. Maybe, she said slowly. The pathogen attacks by triggering an extreme immune response, but human antibodies might be able to neutralize it. We'd need to extract antibodies from our blood and synthesize them into a treatment. What's the catch? Young-soo asked. Jiwoo hesitated. The process would require us to infect ourselves with the pathogen first. Our bodies would fight it off and produce the antibodies we need. But to produce enough antibodies fast enough to save everyone here, we'd need to give ourselves a massive dose. It will be extremely painful, and there's a chance our bodies won't be able to handle it. How big a chance? Taemin asked. 20% mortality risk, Jiwoo said quietly. For each of us. The lab fell silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. The humans would have to deliberately poison themselves with a potentially lethal dose to save the aliens. Do it, Young-soo said immediately. Taemin nodded. We didn't come here to watch people die. Jiwoo looked at her brother, then at Young-soo. Both of them were ready. No hesitation. That was humanity in a nutshell. When others needed help, humans didn't calculate odds. They just acted. She prepared 3 injections, her hand steady despite the fear churning in her gut. This is going to hurt, she warned. They injected themselves simultaneously. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pain hit. Taemin gasped, doubling over. Fire raced through his veins. Every cell in his body screamed. His vision blurred, and he could hear his heart pounding frantically. Beside him, Jiwoo and Young-soo were suffering the same agony, but their bodies fought back. Human immune systems designed by evolution to wage war against anything foreign. White blood cells swarmed the pathogen. Antibodies formed at an incredible rate. The battle was brutal, but humans were built for brutal. 2 hours later, Taemin could barely stand. His fever was dangerously high. His muscles felt like they were tearing themselves apart. But the monitors showed what they needed. Antibodies. Lots of them. Jiwoo, pale and shaking, began extracting blood samples from all 3 of them. She loaded the samples into the synthesis equipment, programming it to mass-produce the antibodies. How long? Young-soo asked through gritted teeth. 6 hours, Jiwoo said. Then we'll have enough for everyone. While the equipment worked, Young-soo forced himself to his feet. Even poisoned and feverish, his training kicked in. He accessed the station's security logs looking for evidence of who had released the pathogen. There, he said, pointing at a timestamp. 3 days ago. 2 Vrethian operatives accessed the biological storage. They released the pathogen, then escaped in a shuttle before the quarantine was established. Can you trace them? Taemin asked. Young-soo's fingers flew across the console, his security training overriding the pain. Already done. They went to a ship registered to Thrix's private fleet. So we have proof, Jiwoo said. Thrix orchestrated this whole thing. When the antibodies were ready, the 3 humans distributed them to the survivors. The effect was almost immediate. Color returned to alien skin. Breathing steadied. One by one, the dying began to recover. The Kalithi scientist who had let them in approached Jiwoo, tears streaming down their face. You poisoned yourselves to save us, the scientist said. Why? Jiwoo smiled weakly. Because that's what you do for friends. As they prepared to leave the station with the evidence, Taemin collapsed. His body had finally reached its limit. The fever spiked dangerously high. His heart rate became erratic. Jiwoo and Young-soo caught him as he fell. Stay with us, Jiwoo pleaded. Don't you dare die on me, big brother. Taemin's eyes fluttered. He tried to speak but couldn't form words. His vision darkened, then everything went black. Taemin woke up slowly. The first thing he noticed was the steady beep of medical monitors. The second was Dr. Velcora sitting beside his bed, all 4 arms working on different data pads. You're awake, Velcora said, relief evident in the doctor's voice. I was beginning to think even human biology had its limits. How long? Taemin croaked, his throat dry. 3 weeks. You were in a coma. Your body was fighting the pathogen's effects even after we administered the cure. Your fever reached levels that would have caused permanent brain damage in any other species. But here you are, apparently fine. Taemin tried to sit up. His muscles protested, but they worked. Apparently fine was right, Jiwoo. Young-soo? He asked. Both recovered within a week, Velcora said. Your sister has barely left the station. She'll want to know you're awake. And the council? Velcora's expression grew serious. A lot has happened while you were unconscious. Let me get your sister. She can explain better than I can. Jiwoo arrived within minutes, rushing into the room and embracing her brother carefully. You scared us, she said, pulling back to look at him. Don't ever do that again. I'll try, Taemin said with a weak smile. What happened with the council? Jiwoo sat down, gathering her thoughts. Youngsu's evidence was solid. The security logs from Epsilon 7 proved that Thrix orchestrated the plague to frame humanity. When we presented it to the council, there was chaos. Half the delegates wanted immediate action against the Vrethian. The other half couldn't believe one of their own would do something so horrible. What happened to Thrix? Taemin asked, removed from the council and placed under arrest. The two operatives who released the pathogen confessed everything. Thrix genuinely believed humans were a threat and thought desperate action was necessary to protect the galaxy. Velcora interjected quietly. In a way, the counselor wasn't entirely wrong to be afraid. Human biology is terrifying to most of us. But what Thrix didn't understand is that capability and intent are different things. Jiwoo nodded. The council issued a formal apology to humanity. The observation protocols were immediately canceled. And something else happened, something better. She pulled up a holographic display. A new council initiative appeared, complete with funding allocation and mission parameters. The Terran Initiative, Jiwoo explained. Ambassador Hyun-ki proposed it, and the council approved it unanimously. It's a program where human medical teams will work alongside alien doctors to develop new treatments based on our unique biology. We're already seeing results, Velcora added. The antibody synthesis technique U3 used at Epsilon 7 has been adapted for other pathogens. Diseases that were untreatable are now curable. You've saved hundreds of lives, possibly thousands. Taemin felt overwhelmed. They had just been trying to survive, to help people. He hadn't thought about the bigger implications. There's more, Jiwoo said, a smile playing at her lips. Dr. Velcora has been asked to submit a revised assessment of human biology to the medical council. Velcora pulled up a document on one of the datapads. Revised assessment. The paradox of humanity, the doctor read. My conclusion is simple. Humans are dangerous precisely because they choose not to be. Their biology gives them the capability to survive almost anything, to endure conditions that would kill most species. But their philosophy, their culture, their choice to value cooperation over conquest, that's what makes them valuable allies rather than terrifying enemies. Taemin listened, feeling a strange mixture of pride and humility. I've spent my life afraid of what humans are, Velcora continued. But after working with your sister, after seeing what you three did at Epsilon 7, I understand now. Your strength isn't in your biology. It's in your choice to use that strength for others. The door opened. Hyungsu walked in, followed by Nestari, who was carrying a stack of what looked like drawings. He's awake, Hyungsu said, grinning. About time. I've been bored without anyone to complain about my cooking. Nestari approached shyly. She spread out the drawings on Taemin's bed. They were from the children of the aliens who had survived the plague. Crude but heartfelt pictures of 3 humans depicted as heroes. As guardians, they wanted me to give these to you, Nestari said softly. Their parents told them what you did, how you chose to suffer so they could live. Taemin looked at the drawings, his throat tight. In one, he was drawn standing protectively in front of a group of alien children. In another, Jiwoo was depicted with angel wings. Young-Soo was shown as a warrior with a kind face. That's a lot to live up to, he said quietly. You already have, Nestari said. I'm applying to study on Earth. Dr. Velcora approved my request. I want to understand your world, to learn why it produced people like you. Earth is a difficult place, Jiwoo warned gently. It won't be comfortable for you. I know, Nestari said. But fear must be replaced with understanding. That's what Dr. Velcora taught me, and I'm not afraid anymore. Several weeks later, Taemin was cleared to return to New Horizon Colony. He stood at the viewport of the transport ship, watching Nexus Medical Station recede into the distance. Jiwoo joined him, standing quietly beside her brother. Things are going to be different now, she said. The galaxy sees humanity differently. They understand us better, but they also have higher expectations. Good, Taemin replied. We should have high expectations for ourselves. With strength comes responsibility. Dr. Velcora had given him a copy of the revised assessment before he left. One passage stuck in his mind. The question isn't how are humans still alive, the doctor had written. The question is, why do they choose to live for others? That's the real paradox of humanity. They survive because others need them to. Timon thought about his time on the station, about the plague, about nearly dying, about choosing to poison himself so strangers could live. It hadn't been a hard decision. When people needed help, you helped them. That was just being human. The transport ship entered hyperspace, and New Horizon Colony appeared on the navigation display. Home. A frontier world where humans were building something new, something better. Young Su approached them, holding 3 glasses of something that looked suspiciously like alcohol. To survival, he said, raising his glass. To choices, Jiwoo added. Raising hers, Taemin raised his own glass, looking at his sister and friend. 2 people who had faced death alongside him without hesitation. That was humanity too, not just the ability to survive, but the willingness to face danger for those who mattered. To responsibility, he said. They drank together, and for a moment, the universe felt balanced. Humanity had proven itself not through strength but through compassion, not through violence but through sacrifice. Back on Nexus Medical Station, Dr. Velcora stood in the same conference room where Jiwoo had first explained human biology. The holographic displays were gone now, replaced by a simple message displayed on the wall. A quote from an ancient Earth philosopher, one that Ambassador Hyun-Ki had shared during the final council session. With great power comes great responsibility. Simple words, but they captured everything Velcora had learned about humanity. They were powerful, yes, dangerous even, but they understood that power without responsibility was tyranny, and responsibility without power was meaningless. Nestari entered the room, carrying her packed belongings. She was leaving for Earth tomorrow. Are you ready? Velcora asked. The young assistant smiled. As ready as I'll ever be. Thank you for teaching me to see past my fear. Thank the humans, Velcora said. They taught me too. As Nestari left, Velcora turned back to the window, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonies were growing. Human children were being born into a galaxy that now understood them better. The doctor thought back to that first question, asked in a moment of shock and confusion. How are you still alive? Now Velcora knew the answer. Humans were still alive because they refused to die. Not out of stubbornness, but because there were people counting on them. That was the human condition. They survived because others needed them to. They endured because giving up meant abandoning those who depended on them. And that, Velcora realized, was what made them not just survivors, but heroes. The galaxy had feared humanity's strength. Now it would learn to cherish their compassion. It had worried about their capability for violence. Now it would benefit from their capacity for sacrifice. Humans weren't perfect. They never claimed to be. But they were trying, every day, to be better than their nature demanded. And in a universe full of species comfortable in their own stability, that drive to improve, to push beyond limitations, to choose kindness over conquest, that was truly remarkable. Velcora smiled, feeling hope for the first time in weeks. The future was uncertain, but it was also bright. Humanity would face challenges, would make mistakes, would struggle and suffer, but they would face it all together, alongside their alien friends and partners, and they would survive. They always did.